Dingwalls.
Yeah,
so a very tiny venue in Camden. And this was off the back of them doing a playback, is that what they call it? An industry playback of their new album. So we went along to that. Grohl himself appeared and introduced his new album. Claimed it was a departure musically.
It's not really.
Not sure I agree. It sounded very similar, but we did enjoy it.
Oh, it's a good album.
It sounded really good. And then yeah, we trotted along to Dingwalls afterwards. And of course Grohl, as we know, is an amazing frontman.
Yeah.
Funny, one of the funniest men in the world. I'd love to see him as a kind of comic actor in a film. I mean, I just think he's a joy. And you know, what did he play for? A couple of hours?
Couple of hours. It was basically a greatest hit set as well. Having listened to the new album, he played one track off the album when he played live, and it was just greatest hits. It was absolutely marvellous.
At one point he took his guitar into the audience, wandered through them, they hoisted him up, then he climbed on top of the speakers and he was playing.
Yeah, I was at the bar while that happened.
You were? I think you were getting me a beer.
I missed all of that. I came back and you went, "Did you see that?"
Yeah.
And I said, "What?" He says, "Well, he just climbed it." No, I missed it. So when the song ended, I was there shouting, "Do it again!
Yes.
Do it again!"
Which he obviously didn't respond to.
No.
But no, it's very exciting. And of course, then lucky enough to see them again in the stadium environment at Live Earth, and I thought they did a great performance there. And it felt like one of those kind of career-defining moments where, because there was a lot of people I think at the beginning who didn't really know who the Foos were, and by the end you had them singing along and rocking out. Which
the whole crowd was just jumping up and down. It was incredible because all day people have been, little pockets seem to have been interested in certain bands, but everyone seemed to be going for the Foos.
So yes, well done to Grohl. And it's a question I've often had in the past. I can't think of anyone else who was in a seminal band, as he was with Nirvana, who then went on to have a sort of, perhaps not as successful in terms of influence, but certainly, you know, is a great, incredible band. So if you know 64046, who else is there other than Grohl who's done it?
One word: Wings.
Absolutely.
The band the Beatles could have been.
Absolutely. So the Foo Fighters, then we had to play a track from them, and as we like to play a cover version each week, this was the obvious one to choose.
Mr. Cover.
Here's Baker Street. B-side from the My Hero single, that's Foo Fighters doing their version of Baker Street by Jerry Rafferty. And actually they did a cover version at the gig we saw on Thursday, and oddly enough, it was funny you mentioned Wings, it was Band on the Run. Yeah, and they did a fun version of that, so maybe that will find its way onto some kind of illegal bootleg, and heaven forbid that you should hear it. Immediately report, if you should find any kind of blog featuring that, immediately report it to some kind of authority. It's the BBC, we cannot advocate the illegal downloading of illegal music. Alright, I'm just going to make a note of that. Do not steal. Good. I've reminded myself of that. After the news we will have some Lupe Fiasco. Lupe Fiasco, Daydreaming, which features Jill Scott, and also a sample of that I Monster song Daydream in Blue, which actually in turn sampled Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake, which he probably nicked off Mozart or someone, I don't know. I've embarrassed myself, I don't know anything about classical music. Was he before Beethoven?
Yeah.
Yeah? And where does that feature in Swan Lake?
Tchaikovsky was Swan Lake.
Tchaikovsky?
Tchaikovsky.
Oh, I love him. I love Tchaikovsky as well.
He was early 1800s, he was right.
And when he was doing Swan Lake, did he have lyrics about in the summertime and everything?
No, he was mainly doing ballet, so not many of the words.
Not many words in there?
More of the strings and the dance.
Is there no words in ballet?
No.
It's all through the body, is it?
That's it.
And you can see the packet of the dancers, the male dancers, can't you, in ballet? Is that right? When I think of Beethoven, that's what I think of. I've never even been to the ballet. Would I enjoy it?
Beethoven, you keep saying Beethoven instead of Tchaikovsky.
Oh, Tchaikovsky, yeah. What did Beethoven do?
He did them sonatas and the symphony.
Did he do 1812? Did he do 1812?
No, that was Tchaikovsky.
Beethoven, what was he doing? What one did he do?
Beethoven did da 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 and
I like that
Joy and Moonlight Sonata.
There's a version of that, a sort of disco version on the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. Yeah. Let's play that next week. That's brilliant. Yeah. And what other classicals are there? I'm so ignorant. Every time I try to, occasionally when I was studying for my exams and I couldn't listen to music with lyrics, I'd put on sort of Radio 3.
Same.
No idea what was going on there. I mean, I love it. It's brilliant. I can tell it's musically brill. I just got no idea where to start. I'm intimidated. It's a bit like The Fall. I don't know where to start.
Yeah,
and I think my fear is that in an effort to get into classical music, I would have to buy a sort of I love classical music, which is essentially music chosen from adverts. That would be pretty much.
I'm sure Marky Smith will be flattered that you've contrasted the entire classical canon with his work. Yeah. Well, you know, my reaction to classical music's a bit like my feelings about The Fall. You know, a lot to deal with.
Sure.
Hundreds of years of geniuses writing.
But we can't all be super posh, who presumably were, there was probably a string quartet in your nursery every night just to play you to sleep. So undoubtedly. But where would you advise me to start?
Well, maybe I might knock together a little compilation, a classical compilation CD for you.
That would be wonderful. I'd really appreciate that.
Together a few things. If anybody's got, actually, this might be worth sending texting in on 64046. If anyone's got absolute crucial, introducing Stephen Merchant to classical music recommendations, they should send them in or email on stephen.sixmusic@bbc.co.uk.
Did you just say crucial? Is it are we trying to make classical music funky for the kids? It's totally
if
crucial.
I had a baseball cap, I would have twisted the peak round to the back of my head as I said all of that. Yeah,
exactly. Instead, you just twisted your tricorn hat. Of course, impossible to tell if it's facing one way or the other. No, actually, the producer right now, is it worth us? Maybe you could recommend, instead of coming in with your rock and pop tunes, you come in with a classical piece every week.
I've got.
Would that work?
Well, it could.
Because there's got to be a lot of people listening at home who are idiots like me, who don't know and need to be educated.
Funnily enough, last week I almost brought in a song from Sunday in the Park with George by Stephen Sondheim, which isn't classical, but then I thought, will Six Music listeners switch off in their droves if I play something that's from a musical?
Minute. Classical, I can understand. Let's not start playing music that Elaine Page might play on Radio 2. We've got to be careful. But anyway, we'll discuss this. I don't want to make promises that we can't keep. And what have you chosen, consequently, for this week?
I have chosen a song by one of my favourite singer-songwriters, John Martin. A lot of people familiar with Solidaire and his early albums, London Conversation. This is from his 1977 album, One World, in which he's bizarrely referred to as the father of trip-hop, because a couple of the songs are very ambient. He recorded the entire album outside, which means a lot of strange soundscapes from kind of birds and lakes nearby kind of come into it. I think it was recorded at the Real World Studios in Bath.
And a neighbour, "Oi, John!
Yeah.
Can I borrow your Flymo?" Yeah, that's midway through.
Down. And this is probably my favourite song off the album, and one of my favourite love songs and seduction songs. It's called Couldn't Love You More.
Right, if it's not the right version, Rufus, we're not playing it. If you want a specific version, mate, and it's not been provided by the BBC, you are not going to suffer if you didn't get the right version.
Anyone who's tapping the foot to that, I'm sorry, I've let you down. I haven't brought the right version in myself. I thought the BBC had it. I thought there was only one version. I didn't know he was tootling around with Kenny G in the background. They were having a terrible time, weren't they, with that? I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry, John Martin, if you're listening, because I know he's a fan.
Yes, I know. Well, if you recall, I played some John Martin a couple of weeks back, and I had the same problem.
Exactly.
I don't know what the BBC's version of the John Martin library is, but it ain't the one I've got.
He's got two back catalogues, one brilliant and earthy, the other one absolute studio. I was hoping for a bit where a plane went past and it would go from one speaker to the other.
Yeah.
I was hoping that never did.
That clearly was not recorded in someone's back garden.
Really
not at all.
Whoever played that saxophone had never been outside, let alone recorded the song outside.
That was actually recorded, I suspect, at a branch of Smolenskis. Oh, I used to go in Smolenskis occasionally near me because there was a guy with a piano, and I'd walk in, he'd just go, "There is a lineman," and it was great. It was just beautiful. And once I remember he walked in, he just saw me. I just gave him the nod. He just went, "Never seen you looking so lovely as you did tonight." He knew.
Literally,
it's like the lyric
that
game.
went over my head. I have no idea what you just referred to, and I'm going to be honest and put my hands up and go, what?
What, Lady in Red?
No, Lady in Red. No, Smolensk.
Smolenskis. Well, I'm afraid I've got a feeling they may have gone under. I can't confirm that.
No.
Oh, they're still going, are they?
Fine, yeah.
There was one near me.
You're thinking of Quick Save.
You're right, yeah. Or Fop. Oh, I love that she. Oh, you can't joke about Fop on Six Music. The Six Music listeners up in arms. You can joke about Diana, but no Fop. Don't mention Fop. We mentioned earlier we were trying to figure out bands. We were talking about the Foo Fighters, and we were trying to think of bands that had, someone who was just in the background doing some drumming or whatever, and then sort of once that band dissolved, went on to equally great things. And I couldn't really think of any off the top of my head. And obviously, I don't think really Paul McCartney and Wings quite counts. And also, I think Genesis and Phil Collins. That's a solo thing. That's kind of. I'm talking about reforming and starting with a new band.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of people have texted in. Ben suggests Manny, which I think almost gets there because he's obviously done okay. But I think the best shout we've had is Ian, who said Bobby Gillespie. Similar transgression. He went from Jesus and Mary Chain, who were seminal in their way, obviously not as big as Nirvana, but
no, I'm going to give him that.
The Primals, and he was the frontman.
I'm going to give him that.
I think that works.
Well done, mate. Little round of applause for that bloke.
Ian.
Ian. This next track is exactly the reason I think that I chose to offer my services to Six Music, because it's one of those eccentric records that you just can't imagine being played anywhere else, really. And it's from the early 70s, and it's just fantastic. It's from a prog rock band called Aphrodite's Child, which is already pretentious and exactly what I expect from prog rockers. The band lineup was amazing. All right, on vocals, Demis Roussos, before he went on to have his kind of 70s smooth pop career, and doing the orchestration, the music and everything is Vangelis. before Vangelis, however you pronounce it, Vangelis, I'm assuming. Before he did, obviously, the music for Chariots of Fire and Blade Runner and so on. And the album that it's taken from is called 666, and it's a musical adaptation of the Book of Revelation in the Bible. It's just remarkable. And this is the track which is about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and it's just one of the most extraordinary and pretentious 70s gems. Oh, I was listening to that on a train once on my iPod, and I'm quite a considerate traveller, but obviously I didn't realise just how loud it was, and it cranked up, and a gentleman, a proper sort of, English gent on his way to some kind of business conference, just let it across, "Could you turn down your heavy metal, please?" And I was so pleased, because no one had ever done that before, and I thought, so rock and roll. I was like, yeah, I will turn down Demis Roussos and Vangelis doing a song about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Because, sorry, you square, I'd like to shave off a few of your square edges. But, it's one of the only times where I've been criticised for anything even resembling rock and rollness, and I was naturally appalled by it. Incidentally, if you enjoyed the 4 Horsemen track by Aphrodite's Child, then hang around for the Freak Zone, which comes on after this programme, because that's very much the raison d'etre of that programme. It's playing kind of eclectic music. This week they've got stuff by Yes, we've been told, John Cale, and who was the other fellow with the complicated name?
Jan Thingy de Duke.
Right, so if you like some guy called Jan something Thingy de Duke, then you'll want to stay tuned to the Freak Zone.
Jan Dukes de Grey.
Great, there's people everywhere thinking, who he? We also had a good response on the idea of playing a classical tune. Jude's worried that it seems a bit too much like Gary Davis's bit in the middle. I'm saying nothing wrong with that. Gary Davis, a pioneer in broadcasting in the 80s.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had lots of people suggest stuff. Tim Walker has suggested some stuff by Eric Satie, which apparently Kraftwerk have done a version of. Another Tim would be very pleased if Rufus were to bring in some choice classical music pieces, as like Stephen, he knows the excellence of classical music but can't find a way in. People genuinely seem quite interested in this, Steve.
And by people, you mean 3.
That's
enough for me.
That's not a bad percentage of the listenership. So,
make no mistake, it will be classical music light. It will be LITE. There won't be any 15-minute, high-blown symphonies going on.
And
here.
don't be coming in straight away with your, those oddballs who think that silence is classical music, or or sort of noodling. What we want is some classical to begin with.
That's what we want.
A retro cut from 1851.
We're talking about venues where people talk, and there should be one venue mentioned here called the Luminaire, which is in Kilburn. Emma Corliss emailed in. She says there's a sign up saying, "Shut up, people are here to listen to the band, not to you talking to your friends."
Good, I like it. More signs like that, please. I want to leave you with some Peggy Lee, because rather like the sort of Aphrodite's Child track, it's kind of one of those sort of curious tunes that's almost existentialist in its quality, and amazingly, what I love about that is when something that's as kind of dark and gloomy and melancholy as this managed to make it to number 11 in the American charts, which I always think is remarkable. Are we ready to play?
Yeah.
I thought you could just start it, Jude, any time.
3 seconds intro.
Just start it, Jude. See you next week.
I remember when I was a little girl.
With Richard Hawley on guitar, of course. That's the Long Pigs from the mid-90s, and she said, "It's the Steve Show, BBC Six Music with me, Stephen Merchant. Welcome along." The room here is packed with my posse. I'm a little embarrassed now. It really is it's getting too zoo for my liking. In the far corner there, he's a banker, but that doesn't stop him from being on the show. It's Harry. We've also got super posh Rufus. Make sure the microphones are up, Jude. That's one of your responsibilities. So I'm going to draw up a list and I will email it to you later. One of them, do your job. Top of the list, that one. So we've got super posh Rufus as well.
Hello, Stephen. Hello, listeners.
Thank you very much indeed. Like a man who would have been on the radio in